Hi there. Welcome to the Siggy and Rainier Show. Except today it's just me, so it's just the Rainier Show. And I just wanted to talk about pedigree analysis. How do you use pedigree to tell if a horse can stretch out from a sprint distance to a route distance? And in most cases, you'll need pedigree analysis to handicap 2 year old horses because, well, there isn't a lot to go on. These horses haven't run a lot, so Churchill Downs is hosting a 2 year old festival on Sunday, and they're going to have 2 year old races all day. And they have two important stakes races called the Rags to Riches and the Street Sense Stakes. And obviously, one is for females and one is for males. So I thought it would be a fun idea to go over the favorite in each race because the favorite in the Rags to Riches hasn't run a mile yet, and the race is a mile. And the favorite in the Street Sense Stakes, as you can see here on the past performances, I hope, he hasn't run a mile either, and he's 3-1 on the board, so I think he's the favorite. So I thought I would look at the pedigree of each horse, and based on pedigree alone, decide if the bloodlines say that horse could stretch out from a sprint distance to 1 mile. Although in South Bend's case, he already proved himself at 7 furlongs, which isn't that far from 1 mile, especially a one-turn mile. But we're gonna go on with this anyway, just to go through an exercise of analyzing pedigree. Let's start with the filly first, especially, and she's trained by Mark Casse, owned by John Oxley, so very familiar names. And she was very expensive. Just this March, she cost 475K. Her sire is Tapiture, and her dam is Peace Process, who is the daughter of Warfront. Now, some people could just look at the sire name and see Tapiture and think, well, maybe he's a miler, right? Tapiture was a miler, from what I remember. And they'll look at Warfront as well and say, well, Warfront is a good miler sire, and Tapiture was a good miler sire. So maybe her limit is 1 mile, which would fall within the range of this race because it is a one-turn mile. But let's look a little deeper. So on Dam's full search, there's a box where you can type in the dam's name, and in this case, it's Peace Process. So we're gonna type in Peace Process. I just want to see what this filly's siblings did, if she did have any siblings that race. And right off the bat, I see a name I recognize, Jovia. So we're gonna click on Jovia. Oh, we can see here that Jovia already won $281,000. And anyone that's following horse racing right now probably knows Jovia. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but Jovia competed in the Belmont Stakes, and this colt finished third in the Belmont Stakes. For some reason, he hasn't raced since then. I don't know what happened to him. You can see here that he won the Long Branch Stakes at Monmouth Park. He was 11th in the Wood Memorial, but he also got hooked into a speed duel. Second in the private terms. But what distance was the Long Branch Stakes? Let's take a look at that. View full PDF. Okay, here we go. It was 1 mile and 1/16, and that was a two-turn mile. No, it was a two-turn. It was a two-turn route at 1 mile and 1/16. So Jovia won a two-turn route, which is a longer race than this one-turn mile. So right off the bat, I can tell from the bottom side that, especially from a bloodline standpoint, especially should be fine for a one-turn mile. I mean, Tapiture was a miler, I think, and the damn Peace Process already produced a horse that won at 1 mile and 1/16. And not only that, but Jovia ran third in the Belmont Stakes at 1.5 miles. So there is some stamina in this horse. If you like this filly, then you shouldn't worry about her pedigree when it comes to stretching out from 6 furlongs to 1 mile, because her sire could get it, her dam sire could get it, and she already has a sibling that won at 1 mile and 1/16. So that's well within her range, a one-turn mile. So I'm going to give her the thumbs up. at least from a pedigree standpoint. As I said, I'm not looking at the speed figure. Um, I'm not looking at the running line or anything else, the trainer statistics. I'm just looking at specifically the pedigree. We're going to look at South Bend now in the Street Sense Stakes, which is on the same day on Sunday. And this horse is sired by Algorithms, who is the son of Bernardini. Now, you might think that Algorithms is a good route sire because he's the son of Bernardini, who was a router in his career, who finished second in the Breeders' Cup Classic in 2006, and he won a bunch of important route stakes like I think he won the Jockey Club Gold Cup at a mile 1/4. But Algorithms, I don't know. When I've seen Algorithms progeny, they always seem kind of short-winded to me. I think to me they seem more like sprinters or milers, which could be fine in this case because it's a one-turn mile, like I said. South Bend is trained by Stanley Hugh. He's going to be ridden by Julian Leperoux. He already won at 7 furlongs, so that's really not that far off from a one-turn mile. He won at 6 furlongs. He won at 7 furlongs. And one would expect that with a 7 furlong win under his belt, that a one-turn mile wouldn't really bother him. But let's look at the pedigree anyway. Besides Algorithms, I already said Algorithms seems like a miler. The dam is called Sandra's Rose, and the dam sire is Old Trieste. I don't think Old Trieste has any problem with being a sire for a one-turn mile. And we're going to look a little deeper, of course. Just the same thing we did as with the filly. We're going to take a look at the siblings of this horse just to see if there's any other horse in this family who has already won a one-turn mile or maybe a two-turn route race. And we're going to do the same thing here. You have to go to Equibase and go to a thing called Dam's Foal Search, and you just have to type in Sandra's Rose. And I don't think I recognize any of these siblings, so we're going to have to click on a few of them to see if they did anything in their careers. This sibling only won 51,000. I don't know if she will give me a good idea of what her capabilities are. Usually when the sibling was a successful one, that gives you the true idea of what the family is like, because if you click on a sibling and their career was mostly running in claimer races, then that doesn't give you a very good idea, because the horse wasn't talented. Doesn't give you a good idea of what the distance limitations are. This one only won 16,000, so we're not going to look at her either. Let's look at this gelding. He's the reason. This one did win 128,000, so we'll take a quick look here. I'm just going to click on any race that this horse won. He last won on September 7, 2019, so he's still an active racehorse. But he's been racing at Hastings Park, which is not one of the top tier tracks, definitely. Oh, look at there. He won a 1 1/8 mile race. So Sandra's Rose has produced a horse called He's the Reason, who already won at a mile 1/8. So that's a very good sign. I don't know if I even need to look at the other siblings, because I already found one that won a two-turn route race. But let's click on a couple of others and just see what happens. This one hasn't run. Kidden Loves Roses has not run. Rose Essence, we'll see what she has done. Only 60,000, so I'm not going to look at it. Rose Junction sort of sounds familiar. I don't know why. Maybe she did something in her career. No, only 43,000. Oh, okay. I know why I remember this name, because he ran in the 2012 Sanford Stakes. He must have been a pretty good maiden winner to go from a maiden race to the Sanford, so we'll just take a quick look at the distance of his maiden win. Rose Junction won at 5 furlongs to start off his career. but it didn't pan out for him. Kind of hard to tell with only two starts. Sandra's Day is the last one we'll look at, and that mare or that filly didn't start. So there's at least one horse in his immediate sibling family that won at 9 furlongs. So I'm inclined to say a 1 turn mile is well within Specialty's reach, since she already has a sibling that won at 9 furlongs. So what other evidence do I need? Unless I want to go back to the second generation. Whenever I don't have a good feeling from the first generation, then I go to the second generation and just see what the second generation has done, whether it's a second dam or whether it's what the second dam has produced. And the second dam, well, that's the first dam. We'll look at the first dam too. Sandra's Rose. It looks like she won something called the Tuzla Stakes at Hollywood Park in May 2006. And we're just going to see what distance that was. That was 5.5 furlongs. Not a good sign, but we'll keep looking. Looks like she won this allowance race at Santa Anita in March 2006. 6.5 furlongs. Okay, now the family's starting to look kind of sprintish. See what distance this race is. 6.5 furlongs. Okay, so Sandra's Rose was a turf sprinter, from what I can tell. I wouldn't say that doesn't mean she can't produce a route horse, because I already proved that she did. But then again, it was a Hastings Park, so I don't know. Maybe that was a fluke. But as I said, let's look at the second dam, St. Lucinda, who didn't win a lot. She only won 57,000. But we're gonna look at St. Lucinda produced. All right, let's see what these names are. Big Sur. I want to say that name sounds familiar. Composition sounds familiar. Let's click on Big Sur. What did Big Sur do? Oh, Big Sur won 246,000. So this was a pretty good horse. Big Sur won the Majestic Light Stakes in May 2013. So we're gonna look at that race first. That was 1 mile and 70 yards, which makes it a 2-turn route at Monmouth Park. And he also finished second in the Salvatore Mile. I'm going to say that, well, let's put it into Pedigree query first. I'm going to say that South Bend is fine for a 1-turn mile, because I already showed Sandra's Rose produced one winner at 9 furlongs. And then I went back to the second generation, to St. Lucinda, and I showed that she produced a horse called Big Sur, who was a sibling of Sandra's Rose. And Big Sur won a 2-turn mile at Benwood Park and also finished second in the Salvatore Mile, which I think is a 2-turn route as well. Considering those two facts, I think South Bend is going to handle a 1-turn mile just fine. Whether he's fast enough to win the street sense is another story, because I'm not looking at the running lines. I'm not looking at the speed figures. I'm only looking at the pedigree and what it tells me, and it's telling me both of these 2-year-olds are capable of going a 1-turn mile. So again, it's just a 1-turn mile. It's not a 1 mile 1/4. It's not a 2-turn race. It's just a 1-turn mile at Churchill Downs. Some racetracks have 2-turn miles, but Churchill Downs has a 1-turn mile. And in most cases, a 1-turn mile helps horses who wouldn't normally go a route distance. It helps them last longer because, I don't know, it's less stressful to go 1 turn. At least for some horses. Some horses love turning, and other horses just want to go 1 turn. Or if they had a preference, they'd probably go no turns. But in American racing, there's always at least 1 turn. So both Specialty and South Bend are fine to go 1-turn mile from a pedigree standpoint. Anyways, as I said, I don't look at dosage. I don't just look at the sire. I try to look at the dam. I try to look at the siblings. I try to look at the second generation and what the second dam produced. And if that doesn't tell me anything, I go to the third dam and see what kind of sons and daughters the third dam produced. It's way too simple to just look at a sire and make a decision. It's not that simple. Some really good horses can overcome their pedigree. Just because a horse has a turf sire, just because a horse has a dirt sire, doesn't can't I cannot speak. Doesn't mean they can't do the opposite. Um, it's not a good sign though if a turf horse or if a horse with a turf sire is running on dirt, but it's not entirely impossible for that horse to translate his form to dirt just because he has a turf sire. I mean, look at Animal Kingdom. He won the 2012 Kentucky Derby. So the same thing goes for route and sprint sires or route and sprint families. Just because a horse has a route family doesn't always mean that horse is going to turn out to be a router. Just because a horse has a sprint family doesn't always mean that horse is going to turn out to be a sprinter. Um, a lot of people couldn't understand how audible he ran in the Kentucky Derby when Justify won last year. A lot of people discounted Audible because of his sire into Mischief, but Audible was clearly a router. If you look at it, how he ran, how he distributed his energy, he was not a sprinter at all. The way he ran resembled a router. Um, I don't know how to describe it farther than that, but he ran a fine race in the Kentucky Derby, finishing third. He was closing at the end. Um, not not every horse follows their pedigree because it's not an exact science. So that's why I don't think it can be put into a number. It's just way too complicated to be put into a simple number or simple dosage index. You just have to use your mind and think for yourself. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.